Jeff, from fjmtstudio, presenting the Nunawading Community Hub. We'd like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people, traditional custodians of the country, recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging. So we worked on this project during COVID, so it was a very challenging building, but quite exciting. We studied the land itself quite detailed at the beginning of the project, and we worked with an Indigenous artist, Brian Robertson, who created some of the artwork. So the site's in Nunawading. I'm sure you probably all know where Nunawading is. It's dead smack in the middle of a suburban area, and that's our site just there, which was an old primary school, and it was an interesting project to work on. So the site had an old school building, which was on the building, but originally, back in the early times, it was an orchard, and you can sort of see the very first school building is here, and that was left a part of the project as well. So the sort of history of when the building was built as a primary school, and the local government bought it in 2012. So here's the school, and when we came on board, it was totally derelict. There was really not much of it left, and then they said you have to keep it. I was a little surprised, but anyhow, we did. We worked with it, and we virtually rebuilt it from the start, underneath to the top. It's now a beautiful building, and it's quite a place in the building. The other remnant was the oval, which again you can see here. This is how we came on the site. There was an old footy oval and some prominent trees in that building. So as our starting point, we really wanted to emphasise and utilise those two buildings. It's a community centre, so it has 26 different user groups: Canary Club, line dancing, Lapidary Club, Chinese singing, dancing. There was literally quite a bizarre mix, and none of them actually had ever met any of the others, all dispersed throughout the community. So we worked on the project. This is what Nunawading, a lot of Nunawading is this, as you're probably aware, and there's a bit of this, and now there's a bit of that. So we were kind of challenging to create something which really would fit within the area, but be respectful of what the project had to do. There's also remnants of an old brick factory, so again we tried to really think about how that could work. So as mentioned, we wanted a streetscape which was respectful of the scale of the residential area, but we also wanted to celebrate the site as it was. So we worked very carefully on creating a form which was both respectful of its industrial history, but also the residential forms of the neighbourhood. So you can sort of see the project under construction here, and there's sort of two phases to it. There's the, I guess, double height spaces, the basketball court, teaching spaces on the street edge, and the old school we converted to a counselling centre, and then there's a series of classrooms which face onto the building itself. So you can sort of see here how it works. The old school building is University of the Third Age. There's a basketball court, services, a central library area, amphitheatre. They have Meals on Wheels, and then a series of classrooms as well, and a Lapidary Club unit. The site is quite hilly, which also was challenging. We wanted to be totally DA compliant and accessible to as broad a demographic as we could. Here's the old school building, which we, as I said, virtually rebuilt, and then there's the building itself, which we worked very hard to be very pure, abstract form, no downpipes exposed, etc. But a very elegant space. A lot of trees planted, thousands of trees to be perfectly honest. And there's Meals on Wheels on the lower level, Lapidary Club, and in some of the forms inside the ceilings of these spaces, quite interesting. That's the central hub. That's the artwork, which is inspired on a bunch of feathers, which is suspended in the space itself. It's been manufactured, which was a magnificent activity to kind of work with and enjoy that process. Here's some of the amphitheatre spaces, again, highly utilised by the local community, green spaces. That's the basketball court, which was buried in the ground 1.5 meters to reduce its scale, which enabled us to get this beautiful skylight and garden level. Some quite abstract forms, which really enjoyable to be, and the native grasses and trees are are all responding accordingly. But inside the building, it's timber, beautiful warm space, huge trusses which were good fun to watch being built, highly utilised for everything from line dancing to fencing to basketball and netball. That's the space itself. And you sort of see we worked very hard to celebrate the native landscape we had, and then this more domestic scale of the veranda facing onto the oval itself, which again transitions beautifully into a natural parkland. Solar panels throughout, very high green agenda. So you see here, there's community gardens on the right hand side here, and then there's a new landscape being produced here as well. That's the classrooms in a stormy night. That's the veranda floor, which again, the muddies are traced randomly, spaced randomly to celebrate its native positioning.